boy. Wow, look how bright that is on the screen.
Hey, you know how the Stars have a 2-week break? Guys are going to the beach, Cabo maybe, Tulum, maybe Cancun.
Spain.
We should do that too. Or actually, honestly, I would go to Luds and go snowmobiling up in Wisconsin. You know, Luds, I grew up in Maine. You bring your mic over there.
I'm trying to get my read
I
ready.
just want to say that I've never been on a snowmobile, and I grew up. I actually had a friend in high school who rode in the winter to school on a snowmobile.
That doesn't make you a safe driver.
It doesn't.
Pretty cool though.
But I've never been on one. I would go snowmobiling with you.
I don't ride with rookies.
He wouldn't let me go on the back of his motorcycle. He's not going to let us go on the back of his
I'll just give you a map and tell you where to meet us in a couple hours.
All right.
All right.
I'd do
That's
it.
cool.
All right, let's start the show.
I get lost.
About 32, 34 miles an hour, you'll float.
My mind is blown right now. This is the
From a
DLS
boat to
Dallas
a
Stars podcast. We're
car.
beginning of a week of daily afternoon shows. Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, John Anderson, our producer. Robert Tiffin is not on the show today.
Robert's over
okay.
there. I'll be Luds.
Luddy, we got to call you Bob for the rest of the week.
This is why you're supposed to get here early, folks. You don't just come rolling
Screaming in.
5 minutes before.
Okay, so we have a big show for today. A lot of things to talk about, but Luddy, you kind of blew my mind. What do you mean a snowmobile can go over the water? I thought you sink if you hit water.
Can we start having people chat in? There's people that know that. There's races on open water. You can ride on open water on a tank of gas in an oval. They have races in the summer.
It'll literally float.
Yeah. And
That's
what a lot of
insane.
when they get in the races, they will put they'll put like paddles on their track, a little thicker.
But
But a normal
like water skis.
No, but a normal sled rides across water. You
These
just got to
guys
sit back a little
talking
bit. You go about 34,
You gotta go
35 miles an
fast.
hour. That's not fast.
No,
That's slow.
but okay, but like, how do you
Well,
not?
no, you can't go
John,
2
you wanna
miles
talk
an
about
hour
hockey?
because it's going to sink like a rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Every year growing up in Maine, you'd hear about somebody who tragically lost their life falling through the ice, riding on a lake, snowmobiling. I just assumed, hearing those awful news stories, that snowmobiles didn't float.
They don't float.
So how do you do it? Just enough speed?
Steady Eddie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to see this now. This is fascinating. I'm not teasing. I really mean it. I had no idea.
Yeah, you can pull up the Google machine or AI, whatever it's called, and they'll show you. What are we on? YouTube. Go to YouTube.
What are we
Yeah,
on?
we're either on
something
YouTube or
like
the
that.
AI machine, one of the two. It's
Unbelievable. Well, anyway, so apparently you can ride across the top of open water in a snowmobile. I'm sure people in the chat knew this. I didn't. I should probably pull up the chat. But we're just happy that we're here live today. And
I'm just happy I'm alive today.
yeah, me too. Knowing that you're cheating death every time you're on a sled. All right. So we have a full week. We are here every day this week. We next week, because of the Stars return back-to-back in New Jersey and the Islanders the following weekend, we will have Monday and Tuesday of the President's Day weekend off. So we'll have shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. The scheduling note is we're going to do a post-game show. As of right now, no pregame show, but a post-game show for the Four Nations Championship game, which is next Thursday night. So that means that we'll be in studio, or somehow Sam's deal, he'll just be wherever the heck he wants to be. He's just, Luds, I don't know how he got that in his contract. He can just take off and go to some...
I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to be on the road for a couple of them too. So good for you, Sam.
Yeah, good for Sam. So anyway, we have one actual post-game show for the Four Nations Championship next Thursday night. So that's our show schedule for the next 2 weeks. No breaks for us, except for the couple days, Monday, Tuesday. But then we have to work a back-to-back on the weekend. So Luds,
Yeah.
Sam, let's
Yes.
talk about where this team is at. and that's the Dallas Stars.
They're on vacation.
After 55 games, and I looked at the standings this morning and went, oh, look at that. They are in second place, not only in the Central Division, but they have the second best record in the Western Conference. Now, it doesn't mean anything because we're not at the end of the regular season. But as we talked about a little bit about this on the post-game show, there's a real benefit in my mind to having the second best record. If they don't catch Winnipeg, which will be a tall ask, but being better, having a better record than any team in the Pacific down the road could really mean something for this team.
Yeah, but where I see a problem, not a problem, but I think that number 3 spot's going to change. I think the Avs are going to get it.
You don't think it's going to be the Minnesota Wild?
I do not, because when I look at strength of schedule, Minnesota's got the toughest strength of schedule, and Colorado has the easiest. Now, when I say toughest against each other, Minnesota is like in the top 8 or 9 toughest schedule. Colorado is 30th, which is so Dallas is in the middle. And so I think that Colorado can pass up Minnesota. I'm not, and they're only, what are they, 4? They got a game in hand, I believe. Colorado's got a game in hand, I think, on Minnesota, and they're probably 2 or 4 points behind.
No, actually, the other way around.
Minnesota's got the game in hand.
Minnesota's played one fewer.
And what is that difference? Is like 2 or 4 points? Like
Wild
that?
at 70, Colorado at 68.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I just think that I think that Colorado's got a better team, and when they get everything going, and the whole move, Natchez has fit in perfectly with those guys. So now all of a sudden it looks like they got the better of the deal. But when Rannon gets going, but regardless, I just think the Avs can make a push, and you probably, if you're not any of the players are feeling this way, but don't count on playing Minnesota, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. We're going to spend some more time looking at the NHL standings in our 4th segment today and look at the rest of the West as well as the entire East, because there's a lot going on and some shifts even in the past week that have changed, and I think it's going to do that down the stretch. But Dallas has, Sam, 27 games remaining, and they have put themselves in a very good position, considering all the injuries that they've had to deal with so far this season.
Yeah, and we've seen, I think we talked about this a little bit on Saturday's post-game or pre-game, but we've seen them basically tread water, more than tread water, keep pace with everyone else while they were figuring out a few really big things. The power play was a huge issue. They had a few guys that really struggled early on. They needed to score goals. And now, despite the injuries, despite everything they're going through, despite the crazy schedule, we're now seeing those important things grow and go to where we thought they would. I mean, they have like top 5 power play, I think, since Christmas or something, somewhere around there. They're scoring a ton of goals. I believe they're 5th in 5-on-5 goal scoring. They got all these things now that are starting to go the way that we thought they would go earlier in the year. It just took a little bit of time, and that's what we're seeing right now.
The most recent transaction, we talked about this on our post-game show, is Lian Bichsel went sent down to the AHL. Now, he's not the only guy that got this treatment for the 4 Nations break. There are several players that are on the cusp of being NHL regulars who are going to be or have been sent down before the roster freeze, if there will. There's no trade freeze during this, so trades can happen. But
I think they will, too.
You think?
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more at the afterwards, but maybe not. Maybe you're right. Maybe over the next 2 weeks, there'll be some activity. But we do know that he's going to go down and play. So, Luddy, to me, the question is, when you see this last stretch of games for Lian Bichsel, forget, although it makes a big impact, the Miro Heiskanen injury. Just the play of Bichsel since he got recalled his second stint this year with Dallas.
The first word that comes to mind is consistency, in a good way. I don't see any mistakes. I don't see any rushing up the ice trying to create offense. Not that he can't do that, but I think what he's doing is he continues to earn the trust from the coaching staff that we can play. We've got a big body now that can play in the playoffs, should they choose to, that can play in the playoffs, play strong in front of his own net, play strong in the corners, and can make a good outlet. But very rarely do you see him ever take his second option for an outlet pass. It's what he sees first, and he makes the pass. So it's the KISS system, right? He keeps it simple and keep it
Sam
simple.
knows what that means now.
Now he does. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's not maybe Sam, but not Bishop. I just want to be clear on that. No, but he doesn't give you any concern that he can't handle the NHL game right now, and he's only going to get better. And I think that's all on him. I think that he started when he got up. He scored a couple goals and those kind of things. His physicality, now he kind of keeps himself a little bit more in control. He's not, and I think he's trying not to take penalties, which is, and there's sometimes I'm like, man, I wish he was a little tougher on him. But again, right now he's giving them every reason to believe that he can be a player for us in the playoffs should we need him. And Lundqvist is out. And so now you've got that big body that can compete in the front of the net and in the corners.
I'm curious your thought, Luds, because you said, I forget if it was the first call up or second, we were watching one of the road games up here at the studio, and you said that watch Bichsel, he takes no time with the puck. And you were saying that in a good and bad way. Have you seen that develop at all where he's made...
Now what he did to answer... What he used to do is he would take it and fire it off the wall and get it out, which is, again, is what young players are, get the puck out of your own zone.
Yep.
Now his first reaction is not to automatically go up the wall. I think what he's getting better at, which is always tough for young players, is know what you're going to do before you get to the puck. So you can see every once in a while his head will turn around. He'll quickly survey what's happening, what's behind me. And it's hard for defensemen, especially in this game where you can't hold up anymore and guys can skate. So he takes a little bit of a look, and then he knows at least where people are. So he can turn, and when he sees it, he makes it. We see players a lot. The skilled players do it, and they should do it. They see an option, but then they see a little bit better option, and they can make those plays. Right now, he's making the right play at the right time.
We're going to do a quick shop on air. There's a lot more for us to talk about. So I think between this and our next segment, can we audible your trade stuff for tomorrow and continue this? Because I want to give that its due, but I see more questions.
I was hoping you'd say no. I just wanted to see how Owen was going to adjust.
I don't think I'm allowed to. My contract says I can't look to my left and say no.
Can't say no. I like that. But we'll have more to get to, because I want to ask more about...
We changed my commercial read on the fly.
Yes.
Why can't we...
We are.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Luds,
I told you a half hour ago about that.
You didn't tell me.
On the
you
fly.
said you sent me an email.
No, I did not say I sent you an email.
When did
I said I
tell
told
me?
you.
Lud's Google machine takes some time to heat up.
Oh, here we go.
I don't listen to you people when I come into this. I'm
so
focused.
why are you mad at us if you're also saying that you don't listen?
I'm focused when I come in here to what I saw at 8 o'clock this morning.
You were upstairs eating chips.
Yeah, that's my breakfast.
This is why we need to move Sam's discussion for tomorrow. I have more to ask about Lian Bichsel. You talked about Bichsel being in more control. He took a couple penalties early on his first call-up. And some of them weren't even that bad, but it felt like big guy being aggressive, not getting the calls.
Trying to prove your worth.
Do you think he's trying to overcorrect the other way and not be as nasty as we know he could be? I mean, everything...
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Everybody said, this guy plays with an edge. He plays with a mean streak. We started comparing him to Darian Hatcher for good reason. And lately, there's times where I think all of us have said, man, like, the guy kind of shoves him. He didn't do anything. He's ignoring him.
I've said that. I said that.
I
there
know.
were times where guys would push him, and I'm like, dude, push back.
He just stares
so
at
I
him.
think you're right. I think that could be what he's trying to avoid. There was another one that I don't remember the game, but I was like, why did you just take that? And because I thought that would be good, but what I didn't realize at the time, there was a penalty on the opponent. So he didn't want to even it up.
Same.
So so that's hockey sense. That's knowing that you're in the heat of the moment and you're calming your head down and you can be able to react to what's happening.
So how does he find that edge
Experience.
and not to have Matt Dumba-like penalties?
Experience. That he's gonna have to continue to learn. I mean, again, we've seen him make an adjustment just in a couple months, which is, I mean, I would believe that they're extremely happy for that. And like I said before, even for defensemen that that he can do more offensively, get up in the play, like say a Miro kind of guy. Then what'll happen is a coach will come to you and say, okay, now we need more from you. We want you to carry the puck more. We want you to join the rush a little bit tighter. So I think as a defenseman, and again, I've said this before here, and somebody made up 250 games. I don't know what it is, but they feel
Is that 62 games into a season, Paul?
Yeah, that when you don't really become a good rounded defenseman until you play 250 at 3. I don't buy that. But
I swear that came out of New Jersey.
I don't know. Well,
the Devil's
that
system
sounds like a Lou thing.
It sounds like I swear it was. I don't know
Jersey's
if it
weird.
came from Johnny Oduya saying that when he came to Dallas and he said, "Hey, in New Jersey, we were always saying,
somebody said it.
I've
It
heard
would have
this
seemed
before.
that Lou
Yeah.
would be a guy
It
that would have
sounds
said
like-
that years
yeah.
ago. And it could be honest with you, it could have been Larry Robinson when he was there. I played with Larry, and Larry stepped into the league, and he was a premier defenseman. So I think it obviously has come from players that have played a long time and a long time ago, that they saw that they were good players and probably saw other defensemen that had the potential, and all of a sudden 2 to 3 years later, like, now he's a good defenseman. And because there are different situations that you have to learn how to play them. Like I talk about it all the time. Again, I go back to systems, but certain systems, you just have to take my guy, and I got that guy. And there's times like, well, let's talk about Bichsel the other night. When, was it Fiala that he lost his stick against?
It was, yep.
And I had said on that one, because he was trying to be right tight on Fiala, who's a little Oompa Loompa
and
compared to him.
almost ready to go behind the net with him.
And that's my point, is he should have let him
Yeah.
go behind the
Yeah.
net, because now there's more time to catch up, and he gets back there. He's actually buying time for the rest of the group to kind of gather around it. He played him too tight. Fiala just gives a little stop on a dime and then uses him for a screen. But that's a learning point for him. And I'm hoping that somebody, one of the coaches, say, you know what, in that circumstance, maybe you just let him go and let kind of the cavalry can kind of come and help you, especially that kind of player. Now, who's the big dude in Washington? The big guy.
The forward? Or
the forward.
Alexi Protas.
Okay.
Huge.
Protas. Now, that's different. He could play him because he doesn't move. He's not like a little water bug out there. So he can kind of grab him and he can wrestle him into the corner, and you don't have the fear that when he stops and turns, Bichsel could stop and turn with him.
Yeah.
You know, big defenseman, and I got accused of it all the time. Wilson would always say to me, "Leds, the only thing you're missing is the beep, beep, beep." And I was like, what the hell does that mean? He's talking about an 18-wheeler. You turn like an 18-wheeler.
On reverse.
So
Takes a little
big
bit of
guys,
time.
we turn a little bit slower, so we're better off hurting people into the areas that we want them to go to.
Boy, we could do an hour just on Bichsel,
Yeah, I have a
because there's
follow-up
so much
question, too.
more. And we'll do that next here on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. And Luds, you have another 15 minutes to get ready for that read that we
Yeah,
changed.
I'm all discombobulated because I got screwed on this whole read, and now they threw a curveball at me.
Changing the show. All right, let's talk about Sleeper. Sleeper is the best fantasy platform out there. Put your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite player will have more or less in their projected stats each week. Now, I don't know if it's least favorite player, but certainly a trigger here for Mavericks fans. Tonight, I'm going to just dive right in, and I'm going to pick Los Angeles Lakers guard Luka Doncic to score more than 27.5 points.
Peanut gallery showering with booze
tonight against the Utah Jazz in his debut for the Lakers. If it hits, you can win 1.83 times your money. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLSstars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest, doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Thanks, Sam. Let's talk about Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Now, it's cloudy and rainy today in Dallas, but that's okay because you know we're going to get plenty of sunshine over the days ahead. So you always need a good pair of shades. Well, Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product. It's rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, and they make them the perfect choice for all outdoor activities. Hundreds of options to choose from, bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, and of course, great different colors that might even match your favorite team. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal this season. Head to shadyrays.com, use the code DLS for 35% off premium polarized sunglasses. All right, let's continue this conversation with a follow-up question from Sam. Do you forget already?
Oh, no.
We're talking about Bichsel.
I'm going to go to Luds again, see if we can keep picking on him. Okay. No, I'm curious because you mentioned the longer leash that you get and the more responsibility you have to build as a younger player. The Jim Nill, Pete DeBoer, coaching staff in general has also openly been public about them giving him a bigger look this time around, right? Giving him a deeper look this time around. Jim Nill basically said it straight up to us and on his podcast with Spit and Chicklets. Like, admit to the fact that he's up here for good, but he basically said, we're going to give him a nice long look. Does that help a player build their confidence a little bit more and be able to do those things you're talking about that takes you from a young guy just trying not to make a mistake?
Absolutely. What's my biggest thing I hate?
Distractions.
Okay. When you're not getting that advice and you're not sure if you're going back, and I think it's the same way with all young players and guys that don't come in as the next coming. So they're going back and forth and they go back and forth. And so it's one less thing that you have to worry about. And so, and what they have to understand, which I would hope would be part of the conversation is that you are doing all the right things here. We want you to continue to do what you're doing, and then we're going to add to it, but do this first. And we will keep, they're so good at talking to their players. All teams are now, because they come in so young. And so I think that eliminates that thought of going, man, if I make one mistake in this game, there's a chance I'm going back. And so you take that away from them. You can't play this game. You couldn't play the game that way when I played, and it was nowhere near the speed that it is now. You can't play this game second guessing what your read is and where you're going to be, because you don't have time anymore. And I blame a lot of that on the forwards, to be honest with you, on your own team, because they don't hold up like they should.
Yeah.
And everybody's worried about the hooking and the holding. You don't have to do that anymore. All you have to do is skate, get in front of them, but skate the same direction that they're going. Don't try to cut them off. Don't hold them up. Just skate the same direction. And what that does, they have to take a different path to get to me as a defenseman going back to get the puck. So I know I have an extra second or so. I can turn around and look and see what my outlets are, because I know my guy's going to step in front of them. And at this level, the smart forward will make that forward that he's trying to hold up or impede go a certain direction, because you know your defenseman either wants to get to the back of the net, so I make him go to the wall. I take the inside and I make him take a path that takes him to the wall, or I can see where there's nobody over here. You probably want to curl and come up the wall. So now I get on the inside of him and I try to get him to go towards the goaltender, so I get a little more space and time to turn.
So basically finding ways.
I don't think I even answered your question.
No, you did. It's finding ways, because it's kind of the same thing. I always think of like a player inside their head is basically when a team has a lead and tries to play not to lose, you almost always end up giving up the goal and losing. And that's what I feel like.
Tentative.
And that's what I feel like the player has to play. Yeah. But it's interesting you said that. It's almost like teams now are trying to find ways to slow down players, but now legally, the way it was no.
Right.
You know what I mean?
By the way, in the chat, Andrew said, Luds, I thought the biggest thing you hate was an empty glass.
Andrew knows me.
So that's more than distraction, or is it on par?
And Andrew, as a matter of fact, Andrew, I'm not even going to say it. What kind of glass do I actually prefer? So if you'd like to fill that in.
Boy.
Is it a pint glass?
No.
Or is it a frosted mug?
It's one of those old glasses. What are those glasses called with the designs on them? A fancy drink.
You're talking about like a brandy glass?
I think Sam's on it. He just doesn't know what it's called.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know the name of it though.
Let's see if he can type it in.
All right.
Everything that you said, Sam, is get out of your own head. Don't get in your own head. You have to trust what you're going to do. You have to trust that the players that you play with are going to do what they do. And I think for young players, they overthink things. And then that's only because they're trying to learn. I should have done this. Could I have done that? Could I have done that? Just do what you see first and make it, just keep it simple. And I think that's what Bichsel has done. Now, from the physical side of things, yes, I want him to be more physical, but it'll come a time with maturity when he realizes it, because he has we know for a fact he's never played in the NHL playoffs. So game 1 in the playoffs he's going to be nervous.
Yeah.
Game 4 and 5 in the playoffs, the opponent's going to start to figure him out, right? Because they only see him a couple times a year.
Andrew chimed in again. He said a sifter glass. I think he means a snifter.
No.
That's like
Andrew,
a
whiskey. We were working on this the other night.
That's not right. Listen, if you're drinking a beer, you're not drinking it out of a Scotch glass.
Oh, for God's sakes. I'm trying to get a sponsor, John.
I muted my mic when I said that. So you don't need
okay. Well, I'm still trying to get.
Yeah, well, he's still very much live.
Still working on Miller Lite. What was I got
the glass? What's the glass?
It's a mason jar.
A mason jar.
That wasn't where I was going.
I would have guessed that, because I think that's the kind of thing you drink moonshine.
I drink all my
exactly. That's where Crown and that's how whiskey should be drank.
All my cups
I'm
at home.
a big whiskey drinker.
All my cups at home are mason jars.
Are mason jars? Yeah,
it's the best.
I know. I have
alcohol
I have the green ones.
Oh,
light
that's
green.
Fancy.
Yeah, they're old
I keep
school.
my toenails in a mason jar under my bed. It's to repel demons.
You mean like the one
so
Sam every
gross.
time his speakers don't
That's
work?
so gross.
So let's talk about the forwards for a minute, because we could talk about Bichsel for 2 segments or 3 or 4. What have you seen, Luds, from the rookies? Because look, we know Mason Marchment took a step. He got hurt, but he still has taken a step, I think, from last year to this year. He's more confident. He's driving the play more. He's in control more.
Oh, if there's anybody that's got a ton of confidence, it's him.
Yeah. But what about the young guys? Where do you see Logan Stankoven, specifically Maverick Bork, and even to a lesser extent, not to diminish Oscar Beck's play, but those 3 rookies from game 1 to game 55?
I'll start with Stankoven. Same guy every night. Yes, he's been snake bit as far as the puck going in the net, but you get the same effort. He has 2 speeds. It's stop and go. That's it. He goes. So I don't think there's nobody that really is going to criticize what Stank does. I mean, I'm sure they'll say if you play with this guy, play this way. But Stankoven is who he is, and he's a guy that, like I say, every team would love to have a guy like this on their team, and he's only going to get mature, and all those other things are going to come with that. We forget that he played. How many games did he play last year?
24. And then playoff games.
Yeah, so he's a young player yet, right?
Yeah.
And he's relied on in so many situations. For Maverick, to me, I was not sold on Maverick in the first month, but now I see why those guys are, because he has taken. Now you can see he's playing with more confidence. And I think it's so simple for him as it's the confidence, and I'm sure it's being able to play with the Jamie Benns and Sagans and Duchesnes and guys like that to talk him through certain situations. But now he drives to the net. He's not afraid to go to the net. He makes plays. I think he was trying to probably be too perfect when he first got into the league to kind of prove that. And so again, they're calming him down and they're talking. This is who you are. You just keep on building on that. Who else do we have? Beck to me is another model of consistency. It's another player that he knows who he is. He knows that he is a 3rd, 4th line guy for now, and he's just going to do the proper plays. He gets pucks in. He gets pucks out. He makes the pass when there's an open area to pass it into. He goes to the front of the net. I don't even know if he's ever going to be a 20-goal scorer.
That was my
career.
next question, because he made a great assist the other night in San Jose where he got it off the wall and into the middle.
That's the difference.
The first play, not a hesitation.
Yeah.
When he
become that?
first started, he would just continue to chip it down the wall.
Simple.
Safe.
This is
simple.
confidence where now he's feeling the confidence to make plays. And I'm sure he's getting that in his ear. You can make a play. They bring all these players in, and generally they'll show them every one of their shifts and they go through it. And when you've got coaches and people that have been around for a long time, they can say, here, I just want you to see, here's an outlet for you. Here's where you could have gone here, go here. So now that stuff starts to get planted in their mind. And it's like the first read is, how much time do I have? Do I have pressure on me? Then I'm going to advance the puck, or I'm going to keep it in my feet and make them take it away from me. Now all of a sudden I get in there and I'm going, I take a look around quick and I see I've got an extra couple seconds. Now you can take a little bit of a look. But again, he's a player that knows that he can't continually turn pucks over at the offensive blue line and at your own blue line. If I can't hit somebody through the middle of the ice, I better make sure it goes out of my zone and it doesn't stay in. And then the worst case scenario results in a goal against. And then you start to squeeze your stick. And then when you squeeze your stick, coach is like, we better find a way to let him calm down. You don't even want to give him that opportunity.
He's not scoring 20 if he blocks his own shots on an empty
Boy,
net.
that's
for
an all-time play.
That, or he's going to get 40, because if he can do that all the time, that'd be awesome.
Skill.
That play will be in the lore with Radek Faksa riding doing the rail slide on the bench on a zone entry, Roman Polak's helmet blocking a dump in and clearing by itself.
Someone said it was the Patrick Stefan 2.0, but they didn't lose the game. I think that was get scored on immediately after.
No, they won that game.
Yeah.
They tied it after the Hemsky goal, but it was nice that it was. What was the score at the time?
You're talking about with the
when Hammer scored?
No, when Beck just did it. I think it was still
I have
close.
It in my notes. I think it was.
I want to say it was still close.
A 2-goal game. At that
before
point.
they blew it open, but. So
the other storyline I want to bring up real quick for you, Sam, is it a big deal that Logan Stankoven has fallen off in the race for the Calder for you?
No. And I think we talked about it with Sean a bunch, where that was only important. I mean, Duchesne talked about how they wanted to win it for him. Marchman, those guys said they wanted to help him get it. So it's important for the sake of building his confidence and showing him that he's still where he should be. But what I've noticed with Logan, and maybe he's just really good at keeping it inside, when I've talked to him, he doesn't seem to be rattled from not scoring goals. And that's...
Which is good because he's gone through a few droughts now.
A bunch, yeah. And it's,
once last year, after a quick start, the really long one, and he's kind of going through it again, although he did score one on a nice setup play by Granlund when Granlund was first debuting. So,
but you know what he's not doing? He's not trying to dangle around somebody. He's not trying to create more. He just does the same thing, repetitive shoot, where I think some of those guys will fall into that trap where I got to try to do a little bit more. And I'd be like, dude, you're getting 5 to 6 shots a game.
Yeah, the chances are there.
Right? And we've seen them start to gravitate. The only other thing I would say, like I do even with the great players, they're not going and get to the front of the net, get an ugly one. Anybody does that. He goes there.
But even when he had his drought, Luds, the coaches, and the day he scored and broke it, 25-game drought, he said, the coaches told me this morning I should focus on getting to the net more. It's because, well, he's always doing those things. You can never reinforce those good habits enough, can you?
And I think he's done that since day one. I mean, he does all the little things that I think you're asking young players to do. And like I said, when you mentioned Maverick, I think there were some things Maverick wasn't doing and that it was easier at the other levels, right?
Yeah.
And you get here, it's a little bit more difficult. And it starts to screw with your head.
Boy, he held himself, folks.
I held it.
Up next, we have some practice lines for 4 nations, Canada and U.S. First day in Montreal. We're going to talk about that next year on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
We've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB and will make the ideal gift. Created and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the bottle you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com, use the code ALLCITY25, and check out to save 25% on your order. It's kitchen-grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb water like the plastic bottles do. Patented twist agitator that breaks up powders, but is silent when you shake it instead of the annoying ball. Send us your logo or check out our custom shop to customize your favorite bottle. The agitator works as a strainer also and makes it very solid tailgating cup to mix drinks. Order your team-branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code ALLCITY25 for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers, support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. Ice Shakers.
All right, let's talk about Saturday Neon. Started by 2 college buddies or friends. Maybe you don't say both. I know that in Boston, if you say buddy in the wrong tone, you're asking for a slap
you're
or
looking
two.
for the hands.
What's that?
You're looking for the hands.
Exactly. See, John knows. Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs, perfect for your home office, dorm room, fan cave, or bar, or even your she shed. Check out their new Essentials collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools from across the country and counting for only $75. Check out their Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State signs, you name it. Unlike traditional neon signs, these LED signs won't break or shatter. They give you that classic uniform glow. They're cool to the touch, use low voltage, and they last a much longer time. Head over to SaturdayNeon.com, use the code DLLS for 10% off your favorite sign. Okay, so after a weekend with some pretty exciting hockey and teams getting ready for a 2-week break, we have players reporting to Montreal and teams for the 4 Nations tournament practicing for the first time. And we're going to talk about the lines in a second. But I don't know about you guys. We got excited when we were talking about the rosters being announced in early December. And then it was sort of backburnered because, well, there were guys getting hurt and talking points about will they play or not. It kind of, the coaches did this, the players did this. Hey, we're not thinking about that. We're, whether they were or not. They were saying publicly, our focus is our NHL games. And for me, it was sort of the same thing. But now that it's here and now that I've seen some lines, I'm starting to get excited to see these games actually happen. You feel the same way?
Not yet.
No? It hasn't caught you, the fever?
I think in a couple days from now, when you get that first game going.
Okay. Well, let's see if this gets you going a little bit, Luds. Because let's start with Team Canada. They were the first team to skate today in Montreal. And look at the lines they trotted out in practice. Sam Reinert on the left with McDavid and Marner as one line. Then Mark Stone playing with the 2 Nova Scotians, Crosby in the middle, and McKinnon on the right. That's maybe one of the few guys that Nate McKinnon will defer from playing center for. Then in the third line, Seth Jarvis with Braden Point and Brad Marchand. And then Brendan Hagel along with Cirelli and Bennett. And a quick side here. When Brendan Hagel was traded from the Blackhawks to the Tampa Bay Lightning, I thought he was not quite up to the level of which that Tampa was paying for. Boy, was I wrong. He's been a very consistent player. He's developed into their top six. He's a goal scorer. I thought he was a third-line agitator, kind of in the mold of a Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild, but he's much more than that.
Wasn't he first star of the week this week in the NHL?
Like I said, he's scoring goals. Tampa won, I think, all 4 games.
Yeah, when he was on this team, Jake actually brought him up when we were talking about just like how the teams were built. Jake Ottinger, and I asked him just in general how he thinks the teams will be successful, and he said the guys like Hagel are the ones that are the most important in this tournament because every team's going to have skill, especially the Canada and U.S. They're going to have tons of top end skill, but you also need to have some of those character guys to win these type of tournaments, and he's one of them, especially if he's going to be scoring goals on top of that.
John, can you pop that up again? So Reinhart, McDavid, Marner, skill. Best guy in the world.
I honestly,
okay.
Yes.
Now, Crosby, McKinnon. You got a Stone on that line. There's a Tkachuk. You got Jarvis and Point. You got Marchand on that line. There's a Tkachuk. Hagel, Cirelli, Bennett. There's a Tkachuk.
Yeah, it's all that line.
They've got what they've done.
They've got.
Is they said we're putting the grit on every line except the top one.
Well, even
because they're going to play 2 Tkachuks.
But
That's right.
Reinhart can play with a little edge to his game.
Yeah, but not like Bennett.
Fair.
So that Reinhart scores 55, 60 goals a year.
Yeah.
The guy in the middle of the ice is pretty good. Apparently, I haven't watched him play much, but the other guy on the right hand side is good. You know, I just think that group is what they've done is they've put some bite on the lines. You know, so they're going to let. But when you talk about having McKinnon and McDavid, and you're going to show the defensive pairs, and then you're going to say Makar, right? So you've got the 3 of the arguably top 5 players on the planet. Now, I didn't see Crosby's name on there, but that's going to be decided this afternoon.
Look again.
He's on there.
Oh, I didn't see it. I'm just looking at the grit.
Second
Oh,
line.
Crosby. I'm looking at the grit.
Crosby met with the media afterwards, said he's good.
He's good to go. Okay, I thought they were
Now,
going to talk about it today.
there's an interesting debate here because we're going to get to the U.S. in a minute, and Quinn Hughes has made a tough decision not to.
Bummer.
And I believe, Luds, that part of this with Crosby deciding to play is Pittsburgh most likely won't make the playoffs. So the risk to the Penguins, if let's say Crosby pushes guts through this tournament and then has to miss some time for Pittsburgh, is considerably less as far as their playoff chances than Quinn Hughes with the Vancouver Canucks. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but I think that this is big to these guys. This is important.
Agreed.
But the playoffs are more important. So when you talk about Hughes deciding not to, Vancouver believes that they're going to be a playoff team.
They should.
And we don't, and I have no idea if they've had conversations, but I think the players today, and Quinn Hughes being, you know, their leader on that team, knows that he needs to be as close to 100% when the playoffs start for his organization, the people of Vancouver, the people that pay him, his teammates, most importantly, to be 100%. And like you said, Crosby's not going to be in the playoffs this year. So he wants to play with McDavid. I think McDavid wants to play with him.
Unless he's on the Avalanche.
Well, yeah. Well, that's true.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
That's what I think. I think even as far as Pietrangelo, he pulled the plug on this a couple weeks ago. And then there's Doughty. Doughty's like, nope, I'm going to play.
Go ahead and throw up those D as we go ahead. Continue.
Well, and what I was going to say is Drew Doughty.
Those what?
Doughty's
defense.
Different.
Those defensive pairings.
When you see Drew Doughty on here, and they don't even know what his role is going to be. He's played what, a half dozen games, 10 games maybe
Not
since
even.
he's come
No,
back.
like 4.
5, 6,
Okay.
I think.
So
I think 6.
so he's going to come in, and I think that from the standpoint of LA, knowing the kind of competitor that he is, they're like, yeah, go play. We want you to get in. And he's playing 20. He comes back and he's played what, 5 games?
6.
He's
And
playing 25 minutes a night.
I heard probably the same podcast that Sam listened to driving in here. They were talking about on, Elliot Friedman's podcast was talking about the motivation for Doughty to come back when he did was to try to get himself ready for this tournament.
Yeah, and I would think that the organization is saying the same
Pietrangelo.
thing. Instead of taking a little time off, he doesn't look the same Doughty in the couple games that I seen him play. We saw him play the other night. but he's not the same guy, but he's going to compete. And if anything, he's going to drag guys, not that they need to, into the fight in this thing here because he'll be playing like he normally does.
There's a chance with Doughty he might have taken a little bit longer, maybe targeted after the break to get himself fully up to speed.
Who's their 7th D-man?
Their 7th D is Travis Sanheim.
Yeah, and well, but Doughty's not going to let him take him out.
That's what I'm wondering. I was going to ask you, do 7s play a lot in these type of tournaments?
What do you think about Doughty being picked to fill in for Pietrangelo over Chris Tanev, over Mackenzie Weegar, some pretty good name guys, not taken?
Okay, so
and Sanheim, is Sanheim the guy that's not going to play, but they think maybe for the Olympics he might be a guy?
Who on that group that we're looking at right here has as much passion and compete in them every shift than any of those guys there? Yes, Makar dances every shift.
Doughty.
Theodore dances every shift. Morrissey gets up and down the ice. Parayko doesn't play with a ton of grit. Doughty cares. He's going to be. He's infectious the way he plays the game. And so I think he brings that to the whole team, which is why they would want him. And I think he bleeds red and white. You know, I think he's been on every team.
I completely agree.
He's kind of like Crosby. He's been on every team, national team that they have, and they know what they're getting from a competitor. Even if he can't play like the way he can, and maybe they'll take him out for a game if they see that, you know, a little rest is needed. He's still going to be the same guy even if he's not playing 25 minutes a night. He's going to be pulling on the rope the right way.
It's a very good defensive group.
Yeah.
The goaltending, they're all good.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the elite group that some of the other nations have.
Well, Makar's see, that's what I look at Team Canada. They have 3 game changers. They have 3 guys that can win a game by themselves.
Makar is clearly the
McKinnon.
first 2. And Nathan McKinnon.
They
all
have
guys
3 game changers on that
That's
team.
insane.
But it is, but they may need that.
Well, check this out. They did power play work today.
This is the power play. It's ridiculous.
This is something. First power play unit, Cale Makar with McKinnon and McDavid, Sam Reiner in the middle, and net front, Sidney Crosby. I don't know if you can get a better group than that.
I don't know if I think you're going to need 2 or 3 pucks out there.
That's the thing that I was saying. There's not enough pucks for him to make plays for these
guys. It'll be interesting. They're either going to get pissed off because someone didn't give them the pass, or they're going to continue to pass it to each other all the time and not shoot the puck.
They're going to
because they're waiting for a highlight reel goal.
Well, the second group, you've got Theodore, clearly good enough to run the power play. I thought it was interesting that Morrissey gets a spot. They go 2 defensemen because they could put Brad Marchand out there, but they don't. They go with Morrissey, then Braden Point and Marner, and then, of course, Mark Stone net front. That's obvious.
And Morrissey's the guy. I mean, where would you put Marchand out there? Morrissey's the guy that brings it up the ice with Theodore.
I completely agree, but I thought it was interesting because
you're not going to take Stone off ahead of Marchand.
No chance.
No, right?
Yeah,
no.
And they're not going to play Marchand over Point.
And you're not taking Point and Marner off there. So
those are 2 really good righty shooters in those 2 power plays, right smack in the middle, Reinhardt and Point.
All right, we're going to talk more about this with Canada because they play the first game on Wednesday night. We'll preview that on Wednesday. We'll take a look at the game on Thursday, but let's look at Team USA because they were the second team to practice. Now, tomorrow we'll go over the Finland and Sweden groups because they're practicing this afternoon as we broadcast. Luds, this is one of the deepest U.S. teams that I think we've ever seen, and they're missing Jason Robertson, who should be on this now. When they came out, he wasn't good enough, but from December to February, he's been one of the best forwards, and I think it might be a mistake that he's not out there. But when you see this group, you have Matthew Tkachuk, and I'm reading this for our audio listeners in case you're watching right now going, why is he reading the graphic? Matthew Tkachuk with Jack Eichel and Kyle Connor on the first line. Jack Hughes on the left with Austin Matthews and Jake Gensel on the second. Brady Tkachuk with JT Miller and Matt Boldy on the third. Dylan Larkin on the left with Vincent Trocheck and Brock Nelson on the fourth. And Chris Kreider rotated in practice. That is a very deep and talented group.
Yeah, and what I see is Eichel, who carries the puck and handles the puck and passes the puck, and then you got Connor for a shooter.
And then you've got Netcracker.
And you've got Tkachuk, who is a Tkachuk and is going to be that disruptor. Same thing with Matthews and Gensel. Matthews is a shooter. We know that, 60 goals when he's healthy, but he likes to distribute the puck, and so Gensel goes to the net and he shoots the puck. Hughes can dance, right?
Yeah.
And then you got another Tkachuk, who's the same as the first Tkachuk, and then you've got Miller, who's more of a playmaker. Boldy goes to the net and he shoots the puck.
But that's feisty.
And he's got size.
That Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller, and Matt Boldy line, there's some grit in that group.
Yeah, and I think the guys on the wings are a little bit more. Miller to me is a jack of He's like that Swiss Army knife too. I mean, again, if they could have gotten him here and whatever. So
should have put a K Kachuk on there too. Really just Kachuk the whole lineup out there. Bring the old man back.
I don't know if Big Walt's ready to be in game shape right now.
He'd need another goalie jersey. Guy
might crack
and
the
Larkin
ice.
can fly.
Show that forward group again. Just a quick question, Sam. If you were going to put Jason Robertson in this group, where would he fit?
I think I'll say this. He's more deserving and better than Bichsel, Boldy,
I would put him
and
where
Kreider,
Boldy is.
And Larkin, honestly. Yeah, I'd put him in one of those.
And would you
one
move
of those
Kachuk
second or third
onto the
spots.
right side then? Robo typically likes to play on the left.
Yeah, but where does he does the same on the right side?
Well, his power play is all on the right.
Yeah, you could put. I mean, a lot of these guys don't play on the right naturally. Jake
right.
Bichsel is a left winger.
Let's keep this going, and then we'll talk about some
Nelson's the
standings.
center.
But more USA talk here on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast. Let's talk about being a diehard. Now, look, we're all on the same screen, so you can see it's right over there. Luddy can point straight down and see it. That's the QR code if you're watching right now. You scan that, go to our website, alldls.com. There's John. John knows where it is. When we did the remotes, it was all over the place because everybody's screen looked different to every
You guys
person.
notice I'm in a circle now, by the way?
Ooh,
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Somebody
fancy.
went fancy. No more square for John.
I'm not a square.
Why do you
Answer for
use the QR
squares.
code? It's to help you sign up to be a diehard. Lots of great features to being a diehard. You can get a free shirt with your annual subscription. This is the Horseshoe DLS Skyline shirt. I think this one is one of the better designs. It is also extremely comfortable. The material's nice and soft. Luddy, you're hiding it, but it's there. Look, he's got the flag t-shirt on. That's a really sharp one. The DLS in black, that's one of my favorites as well. He looks like Superman, the Man of Steel. And, of course, not only can you get a free shirt,
Oh yeah,
right? You also there.
I didn't know I had one on.
You've got he's got
Rangers.
the double bubble looking one.
Yeah.
You also can get a discount, 20. I believe it's 20% off of the merch store, in addition to the free shirt you get,
Is that a
plus
beaver?
access to the Discord.
that a
We just
beaver?
did a Mavs watch along at Cosm. They're telling us there might be a Stars watch along with a very limited amount of tickets, plus
Heyo.
us at Cosm. I'm telling you, Sam, you wait till you see this place. It is.
I've been
Are we
waiting.
getting closer to that, or are we still getting teased with it?
We're being
Well,
teased
it's,
right
it's
now.
currently in tease
We can't announce
status.
anything, but we are being teased that they're trying to work on that. All of those things and diehard level writing and all the other shows, it's a lot, and it's getting more and more. So your diehard subscription supports our show. I heard we had over 100 diehards sign up in the last week.
Amazing.
I'm sure that the news of a new Cowboys head coach, the Mavs news, there was a lot of it. The Stars playing well. The Rangers spring training is getting closer to being active. All those things.
Got a
Lots going
feel
on.
for them guys, right?
They
They want to start talking some baseball.
They want to talk.
You know what I
talking
mean?
some
Like have
actual
live
games.
baseball. to
Yeah.
talk
We
about.
remember we only did a month
Yeah.
basically without games.
They've been doing.
They gotta do it the
Yeah,
whole.
we
They
did a
gotta do
month
it the
and
whole
a half,
summer, month and a
right?
half.
Yeah,
It
before
felt
the
like
game
8
started.
weeks. Well,
It did.
two-
No,
that's-
I'm
that's 2
excited
months.
for our Ranger show to have John and Jeff have some things to talk about.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. All right, diehard, alldls.com. Sign up today. All right, let's go back to Team USA lines here, guys, as we continue here. Let's look at the forward group again, and then we'll get to our defense and goaltending. They did not run any special teams, so we can't show you a power play group, but Luds and Sam, we can guess. I mean,
Eichel,
honestly,
Kachuk,
it's going to be the
That's
guys at the top,
top
but you
line.
could have anybody.
Matthews.
I don't think there's anybody of those top four. Well, Canada was a little different. There were a couple guys that go, I don't know if I want that on my power play. But with this group, you could plug and play. There's so many talented forwards out there.
Yeah, you look at guys. I mean, half wall guys. Obviously, Eichel. You know, I think Miller can play on the half wall. The Kachucks can play in front of the
Gotta
net.
put him in front.
Kreider can play in front of the net. Hughes can play all over the
He's
ice.
so creative on the power play too.
Gensel's a shooter. So, Boldy, big body again. Nelson's a shooter. Nelson may not see the power play.
Kyle Connor
He's-
has to be a shooter.
yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
With his,
And you have
his
two of the
ability.
better shooters, left-handed shooters, in Matthews and Connor on that lineup. Put them on the right circle and just go to town.
And think about that. You can have Eichel on the left half wall, Matthews on the right.
I don't
half
know
wall.
if they're any better than Canada's though.
No,
I think they're probably similar.
Well,
here's the thing.
everyone has elite shooters, elite passers,
Yeah.
and elite
I
defensemen.
think they're comparable, although you're right. There's maybe nobody like McDavid or McKinnon and Makar. But I think
it's the mark.
I think the U.S.
Makar
might be deeper.
Makar tilts it for me.
Well, yeah, especially without cool.
He tilts it for me.
Well, and that leads us to our defense.
That'll hurt.
Because take a look at the U.S. defense. They are stacked.
Adam Fox.
And this is missing Quinn Hughes, which is a shame because
which would be the comparable.
He's
to
the
Makar.
closest to Makar for the U.S. Right?
Werenski's been great this year though, but I don't think that they're not going to have a Makar, even if.
Well, Adam Fox
it'll
is
be
a heck
Fox
of an
and
offensive
Werenski
player,
probably
right?
running those.
Yeah, but he's not as good as he was last year.
No,
he's just been his game's been down a little bit. But yeah, he still doesn't do Makar things.
So when you look at this group of 6, and obviously they have an extra in there, but what do you see in that as far as how the pairings look?
Extra is Sanderson, right?
That's it. Jake Sanderson was the replacement, right, for Hughes.
Yeah.
And, we hear that Bill Guerin's really high on Sanderson's game, but Werenski's not coming out of the lineup. McAvoy, Slavin's fantastic. Fox is great. Hannafin's been okay this year. I think he can be better, but he was really good in the playoffs against the Stars last year. And Faber, everybody's really positive on this young defense. This is a very talented group, even missing Quinn Hughes.
Werenski could win a Norris this year, so he's playing great. McAvoy's been injured for a while, and he's just come back, and he's kind of getting back in the swing. I think when big body Slavin, same thing with Hannafin. Faber is a guy that we've seen a couple times now, and I'm really impressed with him, the way he plays the game. And yeah, Fox is a guy that can be that power play guy. I just don't think he's the same as Makar, and he's been a little bit off this year. But again, to me, for defensemen, forget the power play stuff. It's about chemistry. And how do they play with each other, in this tournament?
I think goaltending, I've said it before, goaltending is going to be the biggest part of this tournament. And it goes even further than just having the better goaltenders. I'm looking at Jesse Granger, who does a lot of stuff for goalies, posted the goalies' performances since January 1st. Not only is Canada
just recent snapshot.
Yeah, this is January 1st. Not only does Canada have the worst goaltending of all the teams in terms of their stats since January 1st, but their other guys they didn't pick, specifically Logan Thompson, are all outplaying the guys they did pick on their roster.
I mean, I think Montembeault is a good young goalie. He's the 3. I think
he's lost his last 9 games.
Montreal's been brutal lately. But I like Montembeault.
I can see playing him,
but I mean,
in Montreal.
Canada and Finland's goalies are all under 900.
I mean, Aiden Hill's got to be the guy right now, doesn't it? Is he better than Binnington?
He should be the starter right now.
Here's the thing: every nation has a goalie that could be a difference maker, but the U.S. has 3 that could be difference makers.
I bet you Army talks him into starting Binnington.
You think?
That's what I think.
I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I wouldn't.
If Binnington's on, he's on. But he's just so...
Here's the thing.
Heckle and Jekyll.
We know Team USA that Hellebuyck's going to start. And even if he doesn't have the best game, which I think he will, there's no doubt in his abilities. If any one of the Canadian goalies whoever gets the start, whether it's probably between Hill and Binnington, and if they don't win that first game or they don't play well, there's going to be so much talk and media pressure and fan upset, all that passion. It's going to cause doubts very quickly for the guy in the net for Canada.
And they can't afford to. This is such a quick tournament. We talked about it already, how it's not. You don't even get the semifinal, quarterfinal, any of that. You have to do well in the round robin.
There's a 3.
Is Canada playing Finland first?
No, Sweden.
Oh, well, that's a
USA Finland first game. So think about this. You have 3 games each. Depending on how things shake out, if you win 2, you're in pretty good shape, right? Granted that if you lose in past regulation, you get points. But let's just say if you can win 2 of 3, you're probably looking at a pretty good chance at making the final. So,
which is why I kind of think
if you lose the first game, that means the pressure's on, especially if you lose it in regulation. You got to win those last 2. So it's almost like an elimination game, your second game.
Yeah. And it's US-Canada in the second game, which I think is awesome.
Can you imagine, Luds, if the Swedes shocked Canada, which we'll see, and then
or the Finns shocked US?
Didn't our own Sean Shapiro predict that?
Maybe
because he was saying that those teams have been preparing for this for so long. We're going to talk about Finland
and Sweden rosters tomorrow. Finland surprises teams constantly because they aren't the flashiest
and they got a goalie,
but they work so hard defensively.
Yeah, they're
gritty.
Their back end's not good.
Well, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
Saros can steal them, though.
They're in trouble with that. All right, let's do a quick turn to the NHL standings because we're going to spend a lot of time over the next 2 weeks talking about the 4 nations. But I wanted to finish today with just a quick look at the NHL standings as it looks right now. We already talked in the beginning about where the Stars are, And Luds, you had some interesting comments about thinking Colorado might jump Minnesota. Let's take a look at the Western Conference standings right now. As you can see, Winnipeg 9 points clear of Dallas for second in the conference, although Dallas does have one game in hand. I don't know if Winnipeg, they've already went through one downturn this year. I don't know if they're going to have another slowdown as far as relinquish that spot this year.
Listen, you're playing almost 60 games. You are who you are. Yeah. That's who they are.
Are they going to win the Western Conference, do you think?
I never thought that they were going to keep this up all year long. I really didn't. And now it's hard to, again, they've got the best goaltender on the planet. There's no question. So, yeah, and he's probably one. I believe I heard someone say he has almost as many shutouts as he has losses.
Yes. At one point, it was 6-6.
Yeah. I mean, that's just crazy. So he may play every game in this tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. But I don't know if that's good. Anyway, you don't want to talk about that now.
No, that's okay. So, we have lots more Four Nations.
Oh, now he has one more loss than a shutout.
One more.
So
okay.
He's a terrible goalie at this point.
I think Winnipeg
you
is
about
for real.
This right now, and what do you think changes between now and Game 82?
For who? Everything?
Anybody.
Well,
no,
I think
any of the groups.
You're gonna and that right there, you're always gonna wonder what's happening on the two teams below it, between Vancouver and Calgary.
Yes,
that wild card. That to me is. But I do think that I look at strength of schedule all the time, and I look at it way too much, and generally it probably doesn't mean anything. But I look at the schedule that Mini has is they've got a way tougher schedule than Colorado, and so now as everybody sits here and goes, man, that's the perfect setup right there. Now all of a sudden, if you're talking about Dallas, Spain, I think Dallas finishes right where they're at. I think maybe they're going to give Winnipeg a push, but I think Winnipeg's going to have to, fall off a little bit of a cliff.
What do you think about that Pacific top three? Because as you
Edmonton's going to finish.
It's been that way for so long, hasn't it?
You said you said a minute ago about strength of schedule. I said on our Friday show, I think the LA Kings, because they have a lot of home games to be played and they're so good at home, I think they could. There's a gap there. So they're 7 points behind the top two teams. I think they'll close that and make it interesting. And frankly, I understand where you're coming from with Edmonton closing, but I don't think their goaltending is great. And I just wonder if it's a toss-up between those three teams. Am I giving LA too much credit?
LA is just praying they don't play Edmonton again.
I don't think Vegas has played well lately.
And
I don't know if that's who they are now or they're going to get their act together.
I think that's your 8, right?
You think so? You don't think?
I don't
Calgary
think anyone jumps in there.
Makes in what? And is of the teams that are
I didn't
outside.
even see the right side of the board. I was just looking at the left side.
Yeah.
So from Calgary down, Luds, and Sam, you too. I'll ask you both this, and then we'll look at the Eastern Conference on the other side of the TV break. Which is the team that could surprise everybody and get in to that wild card spot?
Oh, it's only Calgary. For me.
I think so too.
That's the only one for me.
I thought St. Louis
There's no chance for
a
Utah?
second, but no, I don't think Utah's good.
Is Utah too inconsistent? Because I feel like they have the pieces to be a wild card team.
Yeah, I think you said they were going to be in the top 6 this year, didn't you?
I thought they were going to be in the 8th spot.
Oh, okay. Now you're changing.
No, not top 6.
Can we go back and?
Oh, we can. You can show the receipts. I just thought they were going to be the last one in.
I had the Predators second in the Central.
No, I did too. I did too.
I think we all bought the Kool-Aid on
Yeah.
Nashville. But that's it. You think Calgary's the only one that has a shot?
and I
and
think
they have a shot
that
because they're goalies.
honestly, since the trade, it seems like Calgary, for whatever reason, I think maybe if they traded the other guy too, they were crying about. But I just think maybe they've come together a little bit, and I think maybe now they've said, you know what, we've weathered the big storm that we've been stuck into for 50 some games. And I think they can hold Calgary off.
They reportedly Pettersson, who you're talking about, he is not on the trade market anymore. That's just some reports today that they are not shopping him at all.
That they weren't going to trade them both?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, based on some of the things we've seen, rumors and reporting, there were some issues there.
Some
we
clouds.
all knew.
There's some clouds.
And it does look as though, the guy that they shipped away was the one that most of the group wanted.
But it sounds like New York is very happy that they got JT Miller back.
I would be too.
So,
Let's talk about the Eastern Conference here in a moment, but I'd like to say first and foremost, thank you to everyone tuning in on our television platforms. And of course, we make sure to like and subscribe here on the pod and check out alldlls.com. Okay, back to it. Letty, you mentioned the New York Rangers. Let's look at the Eastern Conference standings here. The Rangers, I think, with all the crap that they've dealt with this year to this point, and they were in an absolute tailspin earlier this season, I think they still have a great chance to be a wild card team or maybe even creep up into the Metro, because I'm not sold right now that I guess they may be too far ahead. I don't, maybe Carolina, New Jersey holds off the other pack, but JT Miller fits. Shesterkin plays as best as he does. Why can't it be the Rangers?
It can be. And Boston has not been, they've been so inconsistent all year long. And I think Columbus is, everything that they've been riding this year is kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. So the big thing is, and the question would be, is it Ottawa or Detroit? And I think it's Detroit stays there. I think Detroit stays in one of those teams. Ottawa, they seem to say they have it together. I think if I were them, I would worry about their goaltender staying healthy and being in the lineup when they need him to be in the lineup. But it seems since the coaching change in Detroit, with the exception of where I think they lost 4 or 5 in a row or something like that, they've been a really good hockey team.
Yeah.
So I think Detroit stays there. My thing would be, is it going to be the Rangers or the Senators that get that last spot?
Do you think the Blue Jackets, Sam, have any hopes of being that Cinderella story that we're all hoping because of the tragedy with Johnny Gaudreau?
Yeah, but what's his name? Was it Michkov? He's out.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is their detriment.
Marchenko.
There you go.
Marchenko.
They're crushed with injuries right now. Yeah. That's the hardest part. I mean, but it's funny to look at it's not all about how streaky you are, right? But as of right now, looking after, I think it's December 21st, you look at some of the teams that we're talking about here, and Ottawa, those guys that you're talking about were right there on the border of the top 16. LA, St. Louis, Calgary, New Jersey, Boston, all sub 500 since right before the Christmas break.
Nobody's grabbing that
Nobody's
spot.
grabbing
And
it, which is why it's so open.
Here's my follow-up question for you, Sam, and you can chime in, obviously, if you'd like. There's going to be 2 weeks before the trade deadline when they resume, right? There's 4 weeks now. After the 4 nations, there'll be 2 weeks. How long do we go before some of these teams that still think they have a shot in the East shift gears into becoming sellers?
A week. Most. I mean, I think you're looking at Columbus,
Is
Boston.
that going to lead to a pretty crazy trade deadline day?
It should.
Like last minute stuff?
Yeah, it should.
On
this side specifically.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, the
from
West.
These teams.
The West we think are pretty set. So some of those guys will start selling off a few pieces here. But I think there's a lot of teams that are contenders or in playoff spots right now that are going to get key pieces from either Columbus, Boston, Islanders, Rangers. It's just not going to happen right away, because we know in this league how important it is to just make the playoffs for financial reasons, for team success reasons. For Columbus, obviously, I have other reasons. So all of those teams are going to do everything they can to make that spot. And until there's 7 days left and they really don't think it's going to happen, I don't think they're doing much.
See, I don't know for teams that are going to make a spot are going to be big players. I think that if you look at Florida and Washington, 2 teams, Washington for sure. Washington is very similar to me. I mean, than Winnipeg. They're 2 teams that, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I think that those are a couple of teams, if they could add to their team. I just don't know. I don't know if you're a bubble team, if you're not sure if you're going to be a big player. You know what I mean? Like,
you're not a seller though.
Huh?
You're not a seller though. Like they're not going to give away.
I just
Boston's
don't know if they're going to go out and
Marchand.
get who's the big fish? Who's left? Who would somebody want to go out and get right now?
Marchand.
Well, it depends on the team.
Yeah.
To me, Brock Nelson with the
Nelson's
Islanders.
down.
Okay,
He's a big
and
fish.
I don't think he's.
Dobson,
I think he's a goal scorer. I think he's gonna add to somebody.
Well,
I don't think you got to give up a first round pick for him. I don't think you got to give up a top prospect. For him.
Marchand, Uyghur. They said they're not going to.
You don't even have a contract. So what are you going to give up for him?
I'm just saying the players that are big. Yeah,
I don't think they're going to move Uyghur.
I don't think so. They said they weren't. They said the plan was not to.
But I'm asking, who is the guy out there anymore?
Yeah. Well,
is there one guy on a team, regardless if they're in the playoffs or out?
I mean, there's now that they've settled the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson,
right.
I don't know if there's a elite player, but there are still very desirable rentals out there. And we'll talk more about it for the Stars perspective tomorrow, because Sam wrote an article about thinking that Dallas isn't done. And I do want to pursue that conversation a bit, and we can ask those guys. But availability, that's why Jim Nill went out and signed and traded for Cody Ceci specifically, was he isn't seeing a whole lot of available defensemen because of how many teams on that Eastern Conference standing still think they're within a grasp of making that second wild card.
Well, CC, I think that was a neat. I mean, again, circumstances dictated that we got to go with somebody, right?
Especially with the Lundqvist injury and Miro.
Right now, it appears that he fits in. I would say that he fits in, except for the first shift the other night. He was already on the plane in Hawaii.
Yeah, but he wasn't the only one.
He was on the plane in Hawaii, but by the third shift, he had turned his plane around and he came back, and then the whole team kind of went on from there. And then he got back on the plane and took off again. So, no, but he seems to fit in. And again, I just look at teams out of necessity had to do certain things, or teams that are there. Like, again, I look at like a contender. Washington is, Dallas is too. I agree. I think if Jim can find, like, again, if it's Brock Nelson, you're adding that. Who are you taking out then? Who are you putting him in place of?
Yep.
Because now, if Maverick Bourque is where you want him, or getting there, and we're giving him confidence and all that, who's coming out?
Yep. No,
like if you're taking one guy out,
it's the Blackwells, the Steels, Becks.
The Beck. Would you take Beck out before Blackwell?
No. I'd take
not
Blackwell
right
out,
now.
but you're gonna have to take multiple people out if you add. I mean, right now, if they're healthy, they go
Steele
in.
got healthy scratch.
Yep.
We found out it was a healthy scratch, right? Because they wanted Blackwell to play. He played all right. Well, guess what? I'm not saying you're going to scratch Dodonov, but that list starts with Dodonov, Stankoven, Bourque, Beck, Steele, Blackwell.
Yep.
And if you,
I'd take,
and that's okay.
I'd take Dodonov off that list.
Yeah, probably. But if you add Brock Nelson,
he plays in too many different spots,
and Pete loves the way he plays, especially in the playoffs. So I'm not saying
everybody else I can see.
I'm not saying that you do. I'm saying that that's the order of guys that are under consideration. If you added another forward like that, they're still going to have that problem if everybody's healthy and Tyler Seguin comes back. It's a good problem to have.
That's the key, is that we don't want to look at it as they can't trade for someone because then they'll have to take out Oscar Beck. If you're taking out a successful rookie because you're so deep, that's a good thing. That means you're a playoff team, and you can rotate them in.
Absorb injuries.
Yep.
Which
is what we'll talk about tomorrow.
We're going to talk about it, especially on the defensive side, because I think that's probably where Sam was going with his article. But let's do that. And it's fun to look at the standings because all of a sudden, as Luddy closed his thing, tell you what, a week ago, the Tampa Bay Lightning were outside of the playoffs looking in. Now they're in third place. They've won 4 in a row, and they look like they're not going anywhere.
I've never understood why people, because again, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Kucherov, Point. I mean, I look at those guys.
And one of your favorite coaches.
And Coop, yeah, of course.
But that means
I'm just
something.
saying, I don't know how you count that group. Just the 4 or 5 players. I'm sure you can throw another one in there, but how do you count those guys out?
I would love to know what Tampa looked like right now after 55 games if they hadn't jettisoned Steven Stamkos too. Would that have helped them or hurt them or not?
Oh, it definitely would have helped them.
Yeah.
His comfortability isn't where you would want it to be in Nashville. It's different surroundings for him.
And he's their captain, and he's been there forever.
And I look at Stamkos and the guys that he's playing with or didn't play with in Nashville. Stammer was getting pucks placed exactly where he wanted them from a Hedman, a Kucherov, and a Point. He doesn't have that right now yet. He may have it next year.
We could do a segment on this at some point. The difference in how the Stars and Jim Nill are going to handle Jamie Benn's expiring contract versus the way Julien Brisebois and the Lightning handled Steven Stamkos. I think they're going to be polar opposites.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today. As you can see, we run out of time. We have a lot more to say. That's usually the case. So tomorrow, we're going to start with Sam's discussion about the Stars may not be done. We'll get into deeper discussion about the trades. Which players are you interested? Forward or D? Can the Stars make those trades? Do they have the assets to do that? All that tomorrow. We'll look at the Sweden and Finland practice lines. And as Luddy said, those poor Finns, their defense is getting worse by the day as Ristolainen just pulled out of the tournament. And they called up a guy who spent more time in the AHL than the NHL to fill his spot. So we'll do that. I'm sure there'll be lots more conversation.
We didn't even talk about Karlsson today.
And we didn't talk about Erik Karlsson.
We also didn't say Joe Pavelski.
Oh,
there we go.
Yes.
But all that and more
scrambling
as we just begin this 5-day week of shows. So we hope you enjoyed it today. Get in the chat. Sign up to be a diehard. Check out our website, alldls.com, for writing from Sam and Sean, and of course the other teams, and for Craig Ludwig, for our producer John Anderson, for Sam Nessler, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow. It's at 2:00 right here on DLLS.
Tomahawk City.
We all silly like the mayor.